Globally, definitely a bad year. Personally, mostly pretty good. January. I spent most of January working on making social media pages for my game, Altercation. If you don't know Altercation, it's a platform brawler all about character customization. I spent a while getting together screenshots and videos for the game that I could use for headers and the like. I put together a silly little teaser trailer with an excessive use of the Inception horn. Some of my free time ended up on a tile-based board game about fire. You play as fire, multiplying as you consume all of the tiles in the game. February. Not much going on in February. I started the month with the Global Game Jam making a VR game. I worked with a couple of newbies to make a game about spiderweb repair and fly catching. The rest of the month was figuring out how to do video editing to make my first YouTube video. March. My first YouTube video went live. I was pretty happy with the turnout for my video about all of the silly games I've made over the years. My social media also went live for Altercation. I got a little deeper into making the Fireboard game, trying to smooth out the endgame. April. April sucked. I got laid off on April 2nd, because they didn't want to lay off anyone on the 1st, I guess. I also lost multiple family members to cancer, which is pretty rough. Despite the unfortunate events, my newfound free time did yield some productivity. I posted the RPG podcast that I edited last year, started up my Patreon page, and put out my second YouTube video. The Through the Hidden Door podcast is a playthrough of the Masks RPG system I did with my friends. My Patreon page I set up to support my development of Altercation. The YouTube video was about a bunch of game projects that I never finished. For game development, I made a good dent in adding character creation to Altercation. May. I finished off my game development trilogy with an idea video. I made my Twitch look all pretty, then never streamed anything. I put together a Where's Waldo using Altercation, which is still one of my best social media posts. I also got all of my various links put together under a link tree, so it's a little easier to keep track of everything. The Fireboard game got an upgrade when I bought some plain hex tiles to use for the game. June. I put a little time into starting the gameplay customization for Altercation, but it's going to take a long time to get right. I got scared of that and threw together a boxing ring stage to show off all the generated characters in the background. I went on a camping trip with my family, which was a nice change of pace from being cooped up in the city. I ended the month by making my first real devlog of Altercation. July. I made my second devlog showing off the stage from last month. I went camping again to mix up my time from being cooped up. At the end of the month, I managed to snag a great job as a Unity developer. The last week of the month, I did my own game jam, trying to make my own Jackbox style game. August. The summer depression finally caught up with me. I don't do well with heat, and starting up a new job was stressful for me. I did make a video about my Jackbox game, though. I stopped working on Altercation because Unity is in a weird place with its multiplayer solutions. I did a side project working on a Frogger roguelike just to do something creative with my time. September. I managed to make a video about my Frogger experiment, now called Blobber. I took one last opportunity to go camping before putting a bunch of time into looking for apartments around my new job. The big task I accomplished was getting all of my social media presence under a unified banner of Ryan S. Peterson Games, although Twitter and YouTube decided to fight me on that. October. I moved. It didn't take me long to get packed, then I spent the rest of the month stressing out about the move. I worked on Blobber a little bit, but development just wasn't really happening. I managed to put out a quick video on one of my favorite games, Kingdoms of Amalur. November. I decided that November was going to be Borderlands pixel art month. It was hard to keep up with the daily uploads at times, but it was a fun experiment. After the rebranding, I realized there were a bunch of things I needed to update on my portfolio, so I spent part of the month on that. My new apartment setup was inspiring, so I started working on a garden gnome board game about planting flowers. Points are awarded for having certain plants next to each other. I ended the month making a video out of my favorite bit from the Through the Hidden Door podcast. December. December wasn't all that productive, but it was fun. I went to the virtual indie game expo and showed off Altercation. I had a blast meeting a bunch of other game developers. I also got a chance to be on the Game Dev Breakdown podcast, which was neat to go from a fan to actually being on the show. Now, how about some numbers? The little website blog I made for Altercation got over 200 views and nearly 100 unique visitors. I've got 200 followers on Twitter, but I don't count this one because it's a personal account, not a business one. For Instagram, the one I focused on the most, I managed to get nearly 200 followers in 140 posts while following 500 accounts. I might be able to boost the numbers by following more pages, but I'd rather do that through posts. My two best posts were the little Where's Waldo I put together and an animation of the character Arcus from Exception, which is a great webcomic, by the way. How much a post is viewed and liked doesn't seem to be related to character popularity, and posting frequently didn't do much to the numbers either. Adding the Screenshot Saturday tag seemed to help, though. Facebook gets one view at best, although I haven't paid money to boost posts. My personal link tree has done the best, with over 700 views and clicks, but it hasn't seemed to translate to many followers on other sites. Altercation has been mostly unseen on GameJolt and Itch, but it seems to be doing okay on IndieDB. I haven't been great about updating those sites, which might help those numbers. For Patreon, I lost one patron and gained one. Patreon is yet to take off, which makes sense with my tiny following. YouTube is a little more interesting with nearly 1,000 views, 20 hours of watch time, and 24 new subscribers. I only started pushing the channel at the end of March, so I'm happy with any progress, really. The only two videos that have gained any traction are about my decade making games and my experience making a Jackbox game. Seeing how the Jackbox game video is still being viewed through searches, it seems like the best way to grow the channel would be through tutorial content. Tutorials aren't something I'm really interested in, but maybe I can find some interesting lessons from previous projects I've done. So what's next? Something I really want to get working is online multiplayer. I found a tutorial for something built on the old Unity network solution, which has me a little worried, but I'm done waiting around for Unity to release their new solution. I also want to get the Steam page up, along with the press kit, so that I can have pretty much all of the links completed for the game. I need to work on the level art as well, so that there's something to look at in the game beyond the silly little characters. Well, congrats on surviving a wild ride of a year. Hopefully next year will be a little more stable for all of us. Now that I'm a little more stable, I'm hoping to put all of my time into Altercation and growing a community. This video was pretty self-indulgent, but thanks for watching and have fun sleeping!